What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. In today's video, I just want to kind of document a few issues that my GLA45 came up with in a snowstorm nonetheless. So on my way out of town yesterday at about 70 miles an hour, a big red emergency brake light pops up, followed with my collision prevention assist as an operative. I lose traction control. I lose ABS, my steering goes stiff, indicating that I might have lost my power steering, and a slew of these just random issues. And so very quickly I pull over to the side of the road to try to see what's going on. Now, twice in the past, quite some time ago, the collision prevention assist had totally disabled the car in normal city traffic. I was driving along, and what happened is the car just shut itself off, went into limp mode, and I had to coast out of the way of traffic coming from both sides. So there's a couple situations that have always been in the back of my head. You know, what if that happened while I was shooting roller photos of somebody's supercar? Or what if I was doing some spirited driving, you know, maybe in the canyons next to a corner? So it's always really bothered me, and those two issues seem extremely dangerous. I feel like even one instance of that should probably constitute a recall. However, I haven't had that issue in at least 6 months now, and so I've kind of just forgotten about it. However, this happened yesterday, and so I'm pulled over onto the side of the road, and I apologize, it's quite loud right now. But I pull over to the side of the road, try to assess what might be wrong. Now, in those two situations, in those two instances that I just mentioned, simply turning the car off and turning it back on fixed both of those problems. I did that several times, and the car seems like it's in really, really bad shape. So what I do, I finally, after sitting around for about an hour and starting and stopping the car, I finally get these issues to go away. Drive the car around a little bit more, start and stop it a few more times, and there's no more problem. So maybe ignorantly, I just assumed that this was like the collision assistance problem, and it was just a temporary electronic hiccup. And so after about, 2 hours of delay, I get on the road and I continue my road trip, and I have no problems. The car drives perfectly, and I get about 3 hours outside of the city, and I stop and I need fuel, so I turn the car off and I get some gas and I turn the car back on, and then boom, same issue pops back up. And I'm not in a good place to have problems with the Mercedes. I'm in a nice city, but there's no Mercedes dealership. There's not many parts stores. It's just a little town in the middle of Texas. I'm 3 hours in any direction from a Mercedes dealership or from any sort of, help with its problem, should it be major. And it really felt like a major problem at the time. I was very concerned that I was stuck where I was in a snowstorm nonetheless. So I plug my OBD reader into the car. The main error that pops up is for a front ABS sensor. And for those of you that don't know, the ABS sensor on a lot of cars, it's also called just a speed sensor. It's a inexpensive sensor that plugs into the hub of the wheel, measures wheel speed and things like that. And apparently on the Mercedes, the sensor is integral to all of these other systems working. I apparently had a failure with that sensor. However, good news is it's very easy to replace, even in conditions like this. If you absolutely had to, in 20 or 30 minutes, on the side of the road or at a gas station, you can jack the car up, you can pull the wheel off, you can unscrew the one bolt that holds its sensor in, you can put the new one in, you can be on your way. So that was my plan, except I call all of the parts stores, call all of the big, brand name parts stores. Nobody has one, nobody can get one. They all claim that even the manufacturer says that they don't have any in stock. And so that created another really big problem for me. My next idea is surely the Mercedes dealer at home has one of these parts in stock. And my plan is to buy this part and have Brandon just bring it to me. That's the only solution that I see. Unfortunately, they don't have the part. They can get us the part very quickly, but they can't get it to where I'm at, obviously. And so I cycle the car on and off numerous times. and finally I get all of these errors to go away once again. I have a couple options now. I know that these errors can pop up in the middle of driving, so I can either start heading home and potentially have these errors pop up in the literal middle of nowhere with no cell phone service. And so I decide the best course of action is to drive to O'Reilly's. I'll pull the wheel off, we'll clean the sensor. Hopefully it's just brake dust. I have read and been told by a few of my professional mechanic friends that those sensors can be affected by brake dust sometimes because of metallic particles and things like that. And I did just replace the brakes about 5,000 miles ago. Although I did replace them with ceramic, who knows what all is actually in those. And so I thought, at least if the car is going to be broken down, it can be broken down at a parts store where I know there's tools and parts available. So I do all of that, get to the parts store, pull the wheel off, clean the sensor. Sensor visually looks good, but as you probably know, electronic issues in sensors are typically not visible. Put everything back together, start the car, no lights, nothing's wrong. And I'm thinking, like, wow, that actually fixed the problem. I get out in the middle of the street and boom, steering gets stiff. So what can I do? Do I get the car towed 3 hours in one direction to a dealership? I asked some questions to all of the guys on the GLA45 Facebook page. Pretty much all of them said that this sounded just like that wheel speed sensor. I'm thinking it's such an easy part to replace that I don't really want to incur the costs of towing all that way just for, you know, maybe a $50 sensor. So I try to drive the car, and luckily it turns out, if you're having this problem like I am, it doesn't actually appear like the car is inoperable. We do not have cruise control. We do not have traction control. We do not have ABS. We have no parking sensors apparently. However, I've now been driving the car 3 or 4 hours. I'm getting the correct fuel mileage. I'm not getting any other check engine lights. So the good news is it does seem like the car is driving fine aside from all of those important systems being disabled. This is the worst case scenario for you to not have your traction control and your all-wheel drive. I have passed no less than 10 cars that have been wrecked or stuck in the snow. One 18-wheeler was tipped over. And if I wasn't very confident that I could drive the car safely this whole way, I absolutely would not do it. I haven't spun the car, I haven't slid even a little bit, but I am being very, very careful. I just looked at the back of the camera and it seems like I have been talking for far too long to just tell you guys the problem. I'm going to recap so that anybody that wants to jump ahead and skip the whole story, they can just jump ahead and hear what's going on and the solution. The problem I'm having is the traction control, the 4Matic, the ABS, and an emergency brake light all came on all at once while I was driving. All of the symptoms point to the ABS sensor being the culprit. The car is driving just fine aside from missing all of those features. So it does seem like you can drive the car without damaging it like this. So we've already ordered the ABS sensor, and from what I've read and a few of the people that I've talked to, they say that all of these problems really do point to that being the culprit. What I'm gonna do now, I'm going to wrap this video for this segment, and I will pick back up whenever we're in the shop and we have that part. I'll show y'all a very quick how to install that part. Hopefully that fixes it, and if it does fix the problem, then the video is a wrap, and hopefully this is going to be a resource for anybody in the future. If it doesn't fix the issue, we will troubleshoot and we will get to the bottom of that, and I'll update this video. That way it can act as kind of a resource for anybody else that has this problem. So if you made it this far, I appreciate you listening to me rambling about the car. This definitely was not meant to whine or complain about the reliability of the car at all. I really just wanted to document this so that anybody in the future that has this problem can reference this to find a quick solution. And so anyway, I'm going to cut the video and we will pick back up in the shop. All right, everybody, we're back in town. It's been a couple days now, and the car's been driving just fine, aside from those problems that I talked about in the last clip. So I just got back from the Mercedes dealership, and I picked up our new sensor. Everything looks pretty good, and we only paid, looks like $20.35 for this sensor. Now, I have seen varying prices on this. I think one quote I got was over $100, so quite a bit of a markup there, but we got a pretty good price on this one here. We're going to head over to my buddy's shop. We're going to jack the car up, throw the sensor on, and hopefully that alleviates this problem. Okay, so the car is jacked up and the wheel is removed. This is going to be kind of hard to show you, but if you look right behind the rotor and straight down, you'll see one external Torx bit right there. That's an E10, so you'll need an E10 socket to remove that. But that's the only piece of hardware that actually holds the sensor in place. You will have to follow the harness down behind the strut and up the control arm. And then up here is where it actually plugs in. And so you'll need to unplug it from there, follow it all the way back, use your external Torx bit to remove the sensor, and then replace it. Okay, so it's been about a week since that last clip, and after replacing the front one and then eventually the rear one, that fixed all of our problems. This ended up being a much smaller issue than I originally thought it was going to be. Luckily, it was just both of the sensors went bad for whatever reason. The car seems fine. I did want to drive it around for about a week or so just to make sure that there weren't any lingering issues or problems that it caused, and luckily everything is 100% back to normal. If you're having a problem just like this, I would definitely suggest replacing those sensors, or at least getting those looked at, as those were the culprits for me. I feel like that these systems are all intertwined in a lot of different ways, and so there could be some other issues you're having. I've read some people having issues similar to this, just with bad battery voltage, even from a bad secondary battery, that one that's used for the auto stop-start system. But if you've made it this far, I hope that this video has given you just a little bit of insight, maybe a little bit of help in diagnosing your problem. And in the next video, we're going to be taking a break from the Lotus project, which is almost done. I'm going to be flying out to Mississippi next week to take a look at what might be my next vehicle. It's something that I've always wanted, and for the workshops and things that I teach with like astrophotography and all of the little exploring and adventures and things that I do, it could be a really, really good addition to my small collection here. Now, I don't know if it's going to be replacing the AMG or not. It definitely could. At some point, I might sell this one and replace it with its full-time. But if this vehicle is as advertised, I'll be driving it back to Texas, and of course I'll make a video on that. But for now, that pretty much wraps up this video. I appreciate everybody watching, and we'll see y'all next time.